Public Intellectuals welcomes Transportation Alternatives Dulcie Canton, whose organization just voted to unionize. So congratulations, Dulcie. I should put clapping in here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the vote was unanimous. That's key. Unanimous. We are now a part of United Auto Workers 2110.
United Auto Work. It's funny because people are kind of like, whoa, but you guys are auto workers. But I guess it also to do with transportation, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We don't, it's not the same process in the working classes. We all gotta work together because, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I didn't know that okay, so you know what, like, how did the process go? I mean, I know we talked before. Was this something that Transportation Alternative has always been talking about? Is this, they come to you? Like, how'd the process go?
Well, for me, when I started working there a few years ago, I noticed it was an okay place to work, but there seemed to be a lot of high turnover. There were just a lot of issues, and I briefly worked in a construction union years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred to me that this place, we need a union for the workers. That's the only way to make this work more sustainable. People need living wages and benefits.
Well, I mean, I've noticed that so many times. It's like you're advocating for a better life.
Right.
And the thing is that you guys fight is like more or less like transportation, which
Yes.
it's very important, especially in a place like, it's actually important everywhere, but I'm like, especially in New York, getting to and from places. And we don't really have in our system, our society, we don't really have a organization that works for pedestrian people and our transportation needs.
Right.
But I've also noticed, like, in places and things like, they have nonprofit organizations that work for housing, for food,
Mm-hmm.
for all these things. And so many of these people, they can't afford housing, they can't afford food.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we've both been in the nonprofit world. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think, like, why do you think this kind of idea took so long to take off?
Well, I think it's a demographic issue. I know I started as an ambassador, I think 2015. And when I came on, it was myself, a lot of colleagues I'm with now. We were like the blackest, brownest ambassadors on the set, whereas before it was typically, cisgendered white males, out of state, they're doing this, I guess, this job to move up. I see TA, it looks like it's a place where people, urban planning, it's like a starter job, and they jump off and they go into something else. And I've noticed, people that have left, the white people that have left, they end up walking into really sweet, six-figure jobs, whereas, I come in here, I just started, I'm like, why am I doing all this work and I'm not getting any money? I can't seem to get this. There's some kind of schism. But I think as that changed, the need for a union became more apparent. You know what I mean? It's hard to negotiate if you're Black, brown, person of color, trans, unions help marginalized people.
I didn't even think about that. Like, this idea that for a lot of nonprofits, they're not viewed as actual quote unquote jobs to support a family. They're viewed as something you do to get on your way somewhere else. So, you're there to make friends, you're there to network. You don't necessarily need money because you have your parents helping you. So it's not, this is not like in your mindset. And that's so bizarre because that's true. Like, when Black people, get jobs, most of us are working class. We're like, oh, I'm gonna get this job and I'm gonna stay here because I'm use this job to live.
Exactly.
And so you have this really kind of bizarre dynamic. Whereas I have another question. We had the Amazon thing happen. That's a corporation, and that did not go that did not go well. The thing is that you guys have 14 and they have like thousands of people.
It's harder to do it when the bigger you are. That's what it is. I feel having a union now at our stage now, because TA is going to grow. I see it growing. So it's best to start it now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's growing and it's starting that way. But it's like, you know, when I look at, you know, how it came about and how it I mean, do you think that you could have tips for the people who are organizing with Amazon? I mean, seriously, because even like with unions, it still seems that it's very kind of it's very white, it's very male. And in regards to, you know, the TA had this very lucky thing in regards to you, because you were just like, because, you know, your father was in a union.
Yes.
You have that union background in regards to construction. And you have like that, you know how to like organize.
Yes.
And I also too, I think also too, you know, I think we're both of our fathers are both in the silent generation more so.
Yeah. My dad's 81.
Yeah. So you the Black people at that point had to organize. It wasn't just I'm walking to the union. They had to fight to get into the union because of the racism even within the union.
Yes, exactly.
So I think in a way that experience, I'm like, oh, why don't you go over to Amazon and teach them like this is, you know, like, you know, give that story. Like, I think that's an important story in how our place is organized to become unionized. I also think of the welfare union that you used to have, the National Welfare Union with Johnny Tillman, and she actually organized a union for welfare workers. Mainly Black and brown women. And I feel like, wow, these are people that we should be looking at, even in corporate America, especially in the South, because we've been so unsuccessful at organizing. The North have been unsuccessful as going down to the South and trying to organize it. But maybe that's the whole problem. You can't organize people to organize themselves.
Yeah. So, well, you know what? We may see more of that happen. Well, that's the thing with, you know, gentrification and people being priced out of the city. You know, we're going to places, I guess, North Carolina, you know, and that new insurgence of people hopefully will bring that, you know, because when you're in a place in the South, you're just so beat down. You don't have even the strength or the money to fight back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's and I even heard like, you know, you couldn't in certain places because if you're on a certain thing, like if you're on like welfare to work, or if you were getting out of prison and you have a certain kind of job, you can't unionize.
No.
So it's all these weird like little quirks that we have to also kind of like fight over, and also to dismantle that part of it. Like, even if you're on TANF, you should still be able to union organize. Even if you're a prisoner, you should still be able to union organize.
You should still, yes, exactly. You're a human being.
You're a human being, and you deserve to have pay.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you think that for nonprofits, this is like one of the most important ways for them to fight? I'm kind of feeding you the question. One of the most important ways for them to fight anti-Blackness?
Oh, yes. It's one of the ways. Yes. But this is key, you know? Everybody's... Yeah. If you're talking, if a nonprofit is saying diversity, equity, and inclusion, and, you know, they're union busting, they might as well drop the DEI.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's very, very true, because how do you say I'm anti-racism, I'm for Black liberation, I'm for, you know, I'm a, you know, internationalist, socialist, DSA, when you're okay with paying your Black and brown employees the lowest amount? Like, I heard a nonprofit, I looked it up, and we actually get paid lower than, like, that's one of our, we're paid lower in comparison to the top in nonprofit. That's like, you know, one of our lowest paying jobs that we have is in the nonprofit. But I still want to bring up like corporate America, because we still, you know, that often gets you know, in a way, sometimes when those of us who are Black and we work in nonprofits, a lot of us have had more of a formal education. So you
Oh,
hear
yes.
you hear the nonprofit story more than you do the corporate story. I
Yes.
think because the people who are at the bottom in corporate America are even more economically oppressed, even
Exactly.
though maybe technically they make a bit more money. But
Right.
in regards to, but with Black people, it's not even about the money. We never have
No.
any money, but we have
No.
other resources that we can use. Um, so I think I want to be careful, like, we're just working about this. This is about the system of labor and
Yeah.
them being able to pay you and all these things. And I mean, what are some next steps or some things that you have in mind for maybe like TA or other organizations, with this process of unionizing and hoping this is becoming like this could be something that could sweep across
Yeah, well,
work.
that's what's going to happen. I heard that this is the talk now. Since TA has done it, there's
Yeah.
plenty other nonprofit orgs that are in bike advocacy, and we're hoping that it'll go to those organizations too. You got organizations in Chicago, LA, Baltimore, Atlanta. I mean, I hope that's what'll happen. I think unions as a whole, they have to tackle white collar. We have to tackle white collar. Like my dad said in the 60s, the thing with the labor movement is that, due to, we didn't have the tech like we have now.
Yeah.
So the labor movement, why it moved here, that just made way for companies to just chop the work here and send it out to Asia and, and exploit workers globally.
Yeah.
So now I was just reading this morning in China, the young people, they're protesting. They don't want to work 12-hour days, 6 days a week anymore. And if you look at it, that's a, when you're in a union, one of your things you do is you strike or you slow down work. And I think if those youth in China can keep up, that wave will spread globally. You just can't,
Yeah. Well, I think that's important. I think that this has to be not only, across different fields of labor, whether it be white collar or blue collar or purple collar or pink collar, but it also has to be across state and across international. Because if you can unionize, especially now with the telecommuting and all this kind of stuff, if you can unionize New York and you can unionize LA and we have workers' rights, they can be like, well, we're just going to move that job to North Carolina or Mississippi or another country. So like the way rich people, they have no borders. They don't care. They're like,
outsource everything.
Yeah, they outsource everything, but also they work together. They're like, I sell widgets. I sell the things for widgets. I don't care. We work together to exploit people. So we need to work together to like help to like liberate people. So this is like an amazing. And so, I mean, is everybody? I mean, I know that all the workers are happy, but is everybody else happy? I mean, are you guys? I mean, I know people are afraid to lose their jobs. So, are people afraid?
Well, no, now we're good. Everybody loves the contract, but going in, that's the risk I was willing to take.
Yeah,
that was the risk I was willing to take, because on the flip side of that, I was in a union previously, a construction union. And, like you said, most of unions are all white, and the construction union, it was led by whites, and you get in there and like my journeyman, this old school Black dude, like he's got probably in his 60s now. He must be retired, but he would like kick some knowledge. He came to me the first day. He said, hey, how you got this job? What you had to do? And I said, brother, we had to line up outside in the snow, camp outside for about 8 hours to get an application, and then come back, bring it back, and then they call you back. And he was like, well, what are the requirements? I was like, I think you have to have a GED. He was like, man, next thing you know, you'll need a college diploma to dig a ditch.
Wow. Yeah.
And within the ranks of the union, I didn't feel so protected in there. As a matter of fact, I was sexually assaulted on the job by a shop steward, and that procured my leave. I went to the police. There was an inter-union trial. Of course, they told me, oh, it's he said, she said. This site, I was making a lot of overtime. We'll move you to another site. They gave him sexual harassment training, 2 weeks. I was like, you know what? I quit. I took my annuities and I just put my butt back in college. I went to the new school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I think another thing I kind of want to know in regards to the union and being afraid for, that you're going to lose your. Oh, I know what I'm going to say. I know the teachers union, they put a lot of requirements on how to get the job. Have the requirement for your job, have that to get in to TA, have they changed? Have they raised or lowered? Okay.
Not at all. No, no change.
Okay.
We just get the organizers are getting we'll start at 60K.
Okay.
Which is, you're in New York City, that's what you know what I mean?
Exactly. But but I think that's, one of my, I've always been, not that unions are important, but I know that with the teachers unions, how they keep Black people out, is they keep changing the requirements to be, oh, you need to have this, and you need to have this, and you need to have this, and you need to be working there like 5 years. And if you move, like, the thing is that, like, in places like New Jersey, it's like a lot of places, if you're a teacher, you move to another state, they'll take your stuff. But in places that are more racist, and they know there's a state that's more liberal next door, they'll make it so that you have to redo all the requirements in order to get in, which is how this is the beauty of the teachers union, which is white and totally, like, mainly women and awful. I say that as a 2-year teacher. I don't care. Be mad.
You were there. You experienced it.
Yeah, I was there, so I know. So that's why I was just kind of like wondering. I know all the tricks that they play, and I know you wouldn't do that. But I'm saying, like, also, I guess too, when you're creating a union, you have to have that liberatory mindset. So you're realizing, like, oh, I'm not closing the door behind me. I got it. I just walked off the street and I got this job. And the thing is, also think too, are they training people now at TA? Like, okay, you come in and, we train you. Because I think that was one of the things I noticed that's different between men unions and women unions. Men unions, like, they will train you on the job. Like, do you have a pulse? Come on in and we'll train you. And we'll pay you to train you. But a lot of women jobs is like, are you trained? Did you go to college? Do you know how to do this, et cetera, et cetera? Do you have this certificate, that certificate? And then we're going to make you work for less money before you get in the union. So, I mean, I think that, the model that you're doing, and also too, I'm just kind of like, telling people, like, hey, there are different ways you could do unions, and there's a liberatory way to do it, and there's a way that continues to support white supremacy. So it's good that you got, I hear your little cat in the background. It's good. It's good that you guys were able to do this and still keep all the same entry requirements and get people more money and all that kind of stuff. And I hope other people look at that as an example. And not try to, like, close the door behind them when other people try to do this. Because I think that's an important part of union organizing. So is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I'm always talking about it. I'm very proud, I always encourage people to do it, look into it. You can be in a union as long as if you're not management, you can unionize. If you can't hire or fire, you need to unionize. Yes.
So, well, thank you so much, Dulcie, for talking to us. And we are, we're excited, and we're excited to see what are the new changes, not just at TA, but the nonprofits across the country and across New York, to see the changes that it makes. I'm hoping that the housing advocates can be next. Because their working conditions are pretty horrific from what I remember. At least they were in Los Angeles. I'm assuming it's probably horrible here too. So you should be able to. If you're organizing for housing, you should be able to afford your own house or a place to live.
Exactly. What is that about?
That should be a bare minimum. That should be like, well, our people have a place to live and not have to struggle. Okay. All right. Well, again, Thank you so much.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
to you and TA,
Yes.
and we'll continue to talk and keep in touch.